We're going to talk about the Woman King.
Okay.
What is your first impression?
My first impression is that it was just awesome, and it showed all sides. It didn't just show the victories, it showed the vulnerability of the main character, and it showed her intention as well as her integrity. Something I think we're missing a lot of now.
Did you find anything disappointing?
Actually, no. I heard people talking about they were upset because it was depicting blacks selling other blacks into slavery and all this other stuff, but I didn't get that from that. That wasn't the thing that I honed in on.
What did you hone in on?
I think the things that stuck out to me the most is the fact that how the women became basically sisters. And that's something that I think that a lot of women look for, but they're too stubborn to admit that's actually what they want. They want to be able to develop those type of sisterhoods and friendships that go beyond just the surface. And what we end up finding is people that have selfish intentions or impure intentions, and then you end up not being able to develop those relationships on that level.
What type of relationship was the first relationship that you recognized in the movie?
I would say the relationship of the main character that ended up becoming the king and the young lady that worked alongside of her, and how close they were. And sometimes they would have conversations without fully completing the conversations and know exactly what they're talking about to each other. As well as the relationship that was budding between her, one of the people that worked under her, or beside her, should I say, and the young lady that was coming into the organization. They became almost like instant mentor and mentee, then became sisters.
First relationship I noticed was her and the king.
Well, yeah.
I want to say that because he obviously prizes her to the point where he allowed her to be a warrior. Where most likely she came back from whatever endeavor happened to her, scarred, and he was like, yo, you could be one of the wives, you could be a concubine, you could be a villager, or you can be a warrior. I mean, obviously, unless she made that choice herself, but I mean,
I think what actually happened was she was serving in the guard before, and when she got captured and suffered the atrocities.
Yeah, I understand
and
that.
Then she
was
rose
Storm
to the
War,
ranks.
but I'm saying she still came back,
right,
and decided to triumph her pain and became a better warrior. became a more focused warrior, became a more determined warrior. She isolated herself.
Right.
So
she never dealt with her brokenness until
she was
faced with
that's why she isolated herself. She didn't want to scar the rest of the group. That's why she didn't mingle with the group. If you pay attention, every time she was in the bath, she was by herself. She walks off to be alone. Every time they have a scene, it's just the two of them, unless she's giving commands and stuff like that. As I said, there's tactics to all that information that they're showing, and it's to get you a part of who their character is. And she was a recluse, still dealing with a problem, so she didn't want to put her problems into her warriors. So she isolated herself. If you take notice, for the first time at the end of the movie, she dances with her warriors.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why they were so stricken to call when she was calling out her warriors to see who was still alive after that war at the end. She was reconnected with them. You know what I'm saying? That's what I seen. It was the reconnection, the call. That call was different from the other calls. It was like, yo, this is different. New day, new age. I'm here to reconnect with y'all.
Before she went to go find the ones that had been captured, she was gonna go by herself because she was told not to, and she was like, "Screw it, I'm not going to put anybody else in this. This is gonna be. I'm gonna do this on my own." And they ended up following her out of respect and loyalty to her. You know, I mean, I'm sure they wanted to find their sisters too, but
that on its own was a whole nother.
They basically was just like, look, I know the king said this, but you're who we follow.
But still, it's and even on another level, it's still the integrity of showing that our people were all one. We did this together.
We didn't leave nobody behind.
We didn't leave people behind, and that's what they kept on showing, that we did. That's the reason why now they were so to divert into reality. Because I know that had to been a fact, because my family was strong in trying to stay together when my grandma was alive. On both sides of my family, and before that, it was a traditional thing for our families to take care of each other, be around each other, make sure our family was good, whether we liked each other or not. And only now is it to the point where the corruption of the community done broke up the families, because they got a better grip on how to break the families up.
What's funny is, it's like with you grew up with a large biological family, whereas I grew up, it was just basically my mother and my older brother. So it's not like I didn't grow up with that dynamic. My family was basically made through extended family, through friends, like my mother's friends, or as I got older, my friends became more like family.
I mean, eventually it came down to the same thing for me, but
you already had a concept of
what family is,
and that interaction and everything. Whereas
but that's still me, I got a concept from family, because when I was raised in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, with my mom and my father, they surrounded me in nothing but love. I had my aunts and uncles at every step of the way. My grandma was right down the hall. I, as a child, could go almost anywhere in Coatesville. Yes, I had a very good childhood and very good bound family acknowledgement. But then on the flip side, when I go to the other side of the family, it's not the same. So it's not always a good thing. Because to be honest, we did better once we got away from that part of the family. So that honestly, the family thing don't matter, but it is showing that we're being torn. The whole Willie Lynch thing is working. We don't like being in the same communities as each other. Mm-hmm. You can even tell when black people look at other black people moving into their community, like, yo, what kind of nigga is this?
Wow, that's deep.
I'm glad that the movie was depicting the fact that we are together, and they ain't even say it. They just wanted to depict it. So even in the end, when she was like, yo, the secret to the game is that we don't break up the parent. We don't break away from the order, because you got to protect each other.
Well, also too is the fact that how, and I've heard this before in the black community, where we're more willing to accept outsiders than other people are. So like even with the different tribes coming in, like when they took prisoners of war, they basically gave them the option, hey, either you can become a part of us or you're free to go.
That's because that was the original way. When the Europeans, and this is, I think, what everybody's arguing about, and if anybody feels some kind of way about it, oh well. But it wasn't the same when the Europeans got into the game, regardless of how many with Dr. Umar will call them what, coons or house niggas are going to say black people started the slave trade, or Africans started the slave trade, or our ancestors started the slave trade. Slavery wasn't slavery like it was until America. So regardless of what anybody says, what they were doing there and what they were doing here were totally two different things.
That's why they called it a peculiar practice, because even the Europeans was just like, they didn't understand like what they were doing over here. Like it was different, even in Europe with having slaves there. Yes. They weren't treated the same.
Yes, even black people walked around wearing the same clothing they did. Could live lives. But, I mean, here in America, they were hunted down. They were mutilated. They were beaten. They were raped. They were abused. They were tortured. And all that pain is within the body being carried into the next generation over and over again. And now we're dealing with it. And that's the reason why now we don't psychologically like each other, because we psychologically don't like ourselves. I think we've become disgusted in the skin because everybody hates that skin color. That's why everybody was so quick to holler, black is beautiful, black power. We trying to reinvigorate the feeling that we should have for ourselves. We should love our color. We should love who we are. It shouldn't have to boil down to that, but it only boiled down to that because you got people picking people off based on their color. We're all one race. We're all human race, and it should not be that way. Whatever understanding that they came to when it came to slavery, it then became malicious. And I'm going to tell you why it became malicious. They introduced the Bible, the slave Bible at that. The Bible told them how to beat slaves and how to control their slaves. Whoever wrote the Willie Lynch letter, whether it was real or not,
I was going to say, was that really a thing, or was it just a fable that they gave us?
You got some history that's saying it's true, and you got some saying it's not. But what I'm being told is that whoever Willie Lynch is, that's not the real name of the person. It was a coded it was supposed to have been, of course, secret society shit. He's teaching his secret society slave masters how to maintain their wealth. Don't kill your slaves. You manipulate your slaves. And then eventually you're going to get your slaves to working to the point where your slaves run each other. And then your slaves are going to run themselves. And then you're going to have a whole system to which governs itself. And all you got to do is go to the bank and pick up your money. So all they had to do was instill fear. That's why they got to the raping and the chopping the feet and arms and shit.
Well, that's a part of the breaking of the people, just like you do with animals, breaking their will and everything, which is crazy because that's exactly how they looked at our people as if they were just
wild animals.
Yeah,
savage. That's why they call them. That's why they call them savages, because
it's crazy that you would call a people that have developed all these different systems and all these different inventions and all these different ways of life and communities and everything, you would call them savage when you are coming in, taking over a place after you've been taught by these people how to do things. Because they've learned a lot of stuff from the Moors that were traveling.
I don't think they really learned. I think they more so copied and didn't understand what they were doing. Mm. Because if they did, they would have went over there with peace instead of conquering. Like they went over there as if they was in war. Mm-hmm. They went over there with aggression. And I'm pretty sure our people, being who they are, the natives, are accepting. That's where we always fail. We always are accepting. We always bring in. Matter of fact, the Cherokees are known for uniting with the Caucasians, with the Pilgrims. They were known for it. They thought it was the best strategy to maintain in the land. And that's why there were so many fair-skinned Cherokees. You can go to one side of Virginia and they're dark-skinned. You go to the other side of Virginia, they're very light-skinned. Which I seen in North Carolina as well.
Yeah. I would say that too. Because when you look at the celebrations, when you go to like New Orleans and everything, you have the gambit of complexions. And then when you get there, it goes back to the whole, lynch thing of keeping separations and everything, because, you have the group of people there that wouldn't marry anybody unless they were a certain complexion.
I agree.
So that's where that type of brainwashing has affected the people. I actually had a friend when I was younger. Her husband was like maybe I would say a caramel complexion or whatever, and her grandmother would not accept him as her spouse because to her he was too dark. She was very, very fair skinned, with sandyish colored hair and greenish eyes. And her husband, like I said, caramel colored brother with, he looked like a brother, just light skin. And grandma was not having it. To the point where she was talking about, hoping and praying that when they had their son, he would come out fair skinned. And I'm just like, I don't have a concept of that. Like, why is that even a worry? Where it happened to worrying about whether, or being concerned about whether the child is born with all their parts and healthy and,
I'm gonna be honest,
right mind?
I come to understand why. They already understood what they were going to do to those of dark skin. Mm. They already understood that those of dark skin was going to have to go through this crazy fight in life. Things would never be fair, that everybody be against them. They already understood what it was, so it was integrate. And now, like I said, they integrated.
I think integration actually hurt us more than helped us. I understand what they were fighting for. They were fighting for equal opportunities or whatever, but it really didn't. It didn't really translate that way because we worked better together as a community and as a people, helping each other and developing and building our own properties and businesses and families and joining together and bartering with each other and figuring things out together way better than when we decided to integrate.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls.
It was definitely separate, definitely not equal. So I think we actually hurt ourselves more so. And now trying to get back to a point where we can build together and not excluding anybody else, but concentrating on the fact that we have to get back to working together to build our society. Every other culture does it, but us,
that's because our culture,
African, as they call us, African Americans, which I really don't like that term because how many generations back, do you have to go before you can find your African heritage?
I mean,
they don't do it to nobody else.
We can't just recognize one heritage. So the best thing to say is, I'm American. American is an iron ore of culture. So we all mixing over here. And honestly, that's the American dream. Eventually, everybody's going to be a whole other race. And when they say American, this is going to be a bunch of people with many different shades. And you can't sit there and try to pick that one from the other. You're going to have to say, okay, yeah, those are the Americans. Or you're going to have to recognize that one way or another, we're all going to be united in one form or another. So all the other stuff is just redundant. And actually what it is all just distractions to manipulate and control things the way they want to manipulate and control things. And we're just too blind to understand what's really going on. That's the reason why the Africans in the movie didn't understand truly what the Europeans were doing. That's when they went down there, they was seriously looking like, oh, wow, this is what they're doing. Like, this is crazy. Even the guy that was on their side didn't even recognize it was that serious. He got off the boat, so looking around like, what the hell?
Right.
The atrocities that was formed from the slave trade. The trade don't matter. The atrocity matters. The lies behind it. The lies that are still occurring to this day because of it. That's the reason why everybody keep bringing up slavery. And we just don't know it yet. But as long as we keep believing in this system where we believe this skin color has a power over us, then we're going to be lost. We got to find power in self. We got the ability to dodge the raindrops that are these laws and walls of America, because there's a misunderstanding of how to govern this life system. We all have been taught one way so we can become the engine to the machine that makes the people who understand it the other way more powerful. They said these people don't really understand how this shit goes. They love the chaos. They love the dark. They love the pain. They love the death. So those that celebrate life go in one direction, and those that celebrate death go in the other. Those that love the light have an understanding of the light, and those that have the understanding of the dark have the understanding of the dark. And until they truly seek light, they're not going to be able to see it. Just like those that go to church all day, every day, and feel like either they're the sinner or they're in there with sinners trying to get repentance or redemption.
Well, the thing is, too, it is what is light. You know,
But
what's light to one person is one thing. What's light to another person is something totally different.
But you just answered your own question. Because that's what it is.
So then how can we get on the same page where everybody is seeing the light?
Just like you said, you got to determine what your light is. But the thing is, see, it's different when somebody showed you what light is and said, that's what you're supposed to be chasing. Versus you seeking the light for yourself.
Internally.
Whether they're right or wrong, that still may feel wrong to you. And if you seek hard enough, you may find the light that is calling to you. Whatever that is. But the point is, the manipulation system, the program, the powers that be, the chessboard that you were laying on as a pawn, you only are a pawn because, one, you don't recognize you're a pawn. So when you do recognize you're a pawn, then you got to learn how to become a king or a queen.
I was going to say, I'd rather be the queen because she can move any way she wants to.
But that's showing the two different roles in the system. And that's because the queen, like, think about the chess set. The queen can go wherever she wants for a reason. Because the queen can manipulate any of the soldiers easily. Your beauty controls the board. That's the reason why there's one queen on there, a bunch of soldiers. We're not there truly to protect the king. We're there truly to protect the queen. But because she can be so slick with making no moves, she can go where the hell she want to go and get the job done. The king's just holding down the fort. Because if the fort is taken over, then the legacy dies. The queen's out there getting the information, putting things in place. And when she put things in place, when she make a move, they have to make a defensive move. She can go cross enemy lines. She can get right beside the king or destroy him. It's barely a time that a pawn will be able to do such things. We got to upgrade, and that's what they're showing us. We've lost who we are. That's why they keep reverting back to stuff before us, before the slavery, because we forgot who we are. We forgot. She stood in that whole joining God mode. She was just conflicted. Something was up, and then now everything was conflicting with her. And like you remember I was telling you about the bones?
Mm-hmm.
And then she's throwing nuts.
Mm-hmm.
That's why that's ancestral. And you see what she did? She told her, she said, yo, somebody in your past gonna pop up. Where they played you at, if I don't know you paid attention. But they wasn't even talking about the dude.
They wasn't talking about him. They was talking about her daughter.
They're talking about the daughter.
Yeah.
And the whole time, the daughter was... The daughter is the symbol for the entire situation. She's curious, but she's powerful. She's small. She's petite. She's
stealth.
But she got so much. She got so much against her, but she got so much that works with her, right. and it makes her a powerful adversary. And that's why they showed her in a beast mode. Like, you got these small women all of them were small women, and I guarantee you, if you pay attention to how they stand, these women had to put some training in, and not just throw some oil on their body and wield a sword. They had to learn some stuff.
I love that. Just to divert a little bit, that was funny to me when they greased up because, back in the day, in the hood, they'd be like, okay, you see somebody pull out the Vaseline, you know it's about to go down.
But that's what I'm saying.
That's where they get it from.
They don't even know.
They don't know. But it's so funny.
Like, that's why, check this out. And this is the funniest thing. I remember when my sister was ready to fight somebody, or my aunt was ready to fight somebody, they would literally go to the crib after they leave the bus stop, put their hair in a wrap, put the Vaseline on, take the nails off or put the nails on, whatever it is. It was like a battle ceremony. Like they were getting ready. And then one day I'm watching the old school African fighting traditions where the men would like wrap their one fist up and beat each other until somebody quits or is dead. But there was many traditions like this that I was watching. That was just one of them. And I started recognizing how there's the whole ceremony right before they go fight. The wrapping of the hair, the oiling of the body, the whatever with the nails, the fixing of the nails or the sharpening of the nails or the trimming of the nails. And especially when they wrap their head up, and I was like, yo, my aunt and them used to do that shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yo, we still stick to the traditions. We just pervert the traditions. If you have a beef with somebody, there was a ceremonial tradition where you call them out into the circle. The whole village get down, watch these two, make sure it ain't nobody but these two, and let them fly, especially if it's a fair one. If not, you can always call for somebody to give the fair one in honor of that person. But the programming has put us on a standstill. The programming has put us in a position where we no longer seek the true spirituality that is the gift that our ancestors put in our DNA. Because that's where all the Akashic records are. That's where we have, everything is within our DNA. That's what the DMT situation is about. Because all you're doing is reading your DNA.
Well, saying that, it's like, it's wild when you look at your genetics. Because sometimes, like, one realization I had last night watching the movie is I see now why I did some of the things that I did as a parent. I know my child sometimes would frustrate me because I would see her doing the same things that I did. And I know the results that I got from it. So it's like, please don't do that. But instead of expressing that, I did eventually express it once I realized what I was doing. But it's amazing how your children do the same thing that you've done or act the same way that you acted, not even knowing the stories behind it or that you even did that. So like, for instance, I would get upset when I saw my child, being so kind and so open-hearted to certain people and then getting hurt because I knew the hurt was coming, but I didn't know at the time how to express that to her in order to stop her from having to cross that bridge, as they would say. So I was seeing that in the movie even before she knew that was her daughter. Her daughter was kind of like, she was intrigued by her and frustrated by her at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, going back to what you were saying with your Akashic records or your internal Akashic records, there are things you're going to manifest, throughout your life. And sometimes you won't even have an answer as to why you knew this or how you knew how to go this direction or move and maneuver through life in a certain way. It's because it's a part of who you are. Just like when you pick up certain talents and things and you're like, I wasn't able to do this before, but all of a sudden you have a download of some sort and you find that you have a different ability. That's something that was passed down to you that you just haven't made a connection to as of yet. Or maybe the life experiences that you've had up until that point, okay, now the ancestors are like, okay, now you're ready for it.
I mean, I agree. But I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits on that one. I appreciate it. Nice talking to you.
Same.